Hello Facebook land. I thought I'd jump on tonight. I was actually intending to do this earlier in the day, but the days run away with me sometimes because I'm only human. So here we go, a little bit later than planned. I wanted to talk to you today about the fact that whether we believe it or not, whether you understand it or not, we all of us on this planet actually matter. The fact that we're here, we've earned our place, we've earned our stripes in life, if you like, and we, each of us, without exception, matter. However, the truth of the fact is, we so often, as we grow, identify ourselves with the stories of the people who we are surrounded by, especially as younger people, that we forget. We've all been in situations, I think, as young people where our grown-ups have perhaps been ill, or somebody they know has passed away, and their feelings and their emotions and their need to be cared for takes over, in terms of it sort of encroaches on our own psyche. We become accustomed to the fact that other people's needs and other people's situations are far more important than our own. And that tends to happen to us very early in our life. If we've seen grown-ups, our loved ones, our grown-ups crying, for instance, because they're upset or they're emotional or they've had a big row with somebody, and we're told to shut up and be quiet because, mummy's this or daddy's that or granny's this, very early on it's imbued in us that our need to be heard isn't as important as somebody else's. And it's just not true. But we buy into what we've been accustomed to. We buy into the stories of other people. It's bad enough as we grow older that we actually buy into the stories we tell ourselves. For anybody who knows me well or has heard me speak before, you'll know what I mean when I say the stories we tell ourselves gets us into trouble. Oftentimes, as young people, the stories we tell ourselves aren't even our stories. They're not. They're the stories that are born on the back of family dramas, on the back of family folklore. Oftentimes, don't disturb granny because, if this happens then so-and-so will get upset. If daddy's had a bad day at work, the worst thing you could do is speak to him while he's still coming round and calming down. Do you understand what I mean when I say, as children, as younger people, oftentimes, not always, obviously, but oftentimes as young people, we grow to what we know. And in a negative sense, that can easily, and often is, that as we grow into adulthood, we genuinely believe that we don't matter. Newsflash. You're here, you're alive, you're breathing, you're valuable, and what you are, who you are, matters, let alone the fact that what you have to say matters. What doesn't matter is what's gone before. If we grow up to be people pleasers, if we grow up to be carers or caring in nature because the people that we're surrounded by are very needy in some way, we can never truly understand, as younger people, just how important we are. Don't make a noise because. Stop talking like that because. Who do you think you are to interrupt me when I'm doing this? All of them, in their own context, are probably very valid at the time. But, because there always is a but, my friends, the need for us all to understand that whoever and whatever we are, we matter, is becoming increasingly important in this world. Far too many of our young people are taking their own lives. Young adults' mental ill health issues in this country are reaching critical issue levels. 0 to 16, they're reaching critical issue levels. By the time we're 14 years old, 50% of our young people have had an identifiable mental health crisis of some description. By the time we're 24, that rises to 75%. 75% of our young people, 0 to 24-ish, already are established within the realms of the mental health system in this country on some level or another. The fact of the matter is, at the root cause of many people's own insecurities, of their anxieties, of their fear of being judged or lacking in some way or not being enough, at the root cause of that, more often than not, is the fact that they think they don't matter. Their opinions aren't valuable enough to be heard. We are not valuable enough to stand up and say our piece for fear of judgment, etc., etc. We all know my theories and my teachings, if you like, with regard to how and why we become rooted in fear-based and negative self-limiting beliefs and behaviours. However, what's not often talked about is the fact that, we people say all the time, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. I use that analogy all the time. Rarely do any of us, including me, actually identify the fact that at the bottom of everything, underneath all the layers, many of us don't stand up and be counted. Many of us don't raise our voice. We don't raise our head above the parapet because we don't think that we matter enough to the degree that anybody else will want to listen. The fact of the matter is, many people are willing and able to help and to listen, from best friends to family members to the people, the good people of the mental health services in this country and abroad. But the point is this: if you believe, for whatever reason, that your voice, your right to be heard in this world, isn't strong enough because you don't matter, nobody cares enough to listen to you, please consider this. We, all of us, underestimate the power that the words that we have will have in turn over other people, how they will impact on other people, good, bad or indifferent. The words that we use to, for and about ourselves are not necessarily what other people would use with regard to us. As a human being, as a woman of a certain age, as somebody who learned almost too late the cost of not understanding that I was enough, that cost almost being something that very nearly saw me never being able to speak to anybody, let alone do Facebook Lives and cock them up from time to time. But the truth of the fact is, deep down, not only did I believe I wasn't enough, I genuinely believed, that I didn't matter enough to have the validation, to have the authority, to have the right to stand up and say what I thought to my responsible adults, to other members of my family, to previous employers, long-suffering friends, many of whom are still thankfully in my life today, regardless of the fact that I considered myself not to be enough and not matter. I'm fortunate that many people in my life could see the true value of me, in me, for me, let alone for anybody else. We can only do so much to eradicate the influence that our past has over us. But what I know for sure is that when we are brought up in an atmosphere whereby we have to be quiet because, or you have to abide by my rules because, you have to be asleep by this time or be in bed by that time, you have to go there. We are being drilled, I think is not even too strong a word. We are being drilled to understand that the needs of other people are greater than our own. It's as simple as that. And oftentimes, and very sadly, the people who are doing and saying these types of things don't even do it in a malicious manner. It's just something that is. Just because it is doesn't mean it's right. Just because you don't stand up and say your piece doesn't mean it's right. Just because you aren't willing to have input in a staff meeting at work, or with your even now your grown-ups, because even at 60-year-old I have grown-ups in my life, and I still, out of respect for these people, and it is respect on a deep level, out of respect for these people, I don't challenge their beliefs. I don't challenge their behaviours, because I think, subconsciously at least, or more consciously in my case now, but this is a generic example, I think that other people's situations matter more than mine. It's not that I don't matter. Other people matter more. And therein lies the crux of, pardon my language, sorry, therein lies the crux of the matter. We are, all of us, every single person on this planet, important enough to be able to voice our concerns, our opinions, to be able to say to others, I need help, to be able to say to somebody else, do you need help? I can't tell you in a strong enough way that Facebook will allow, on a live at least, I can't tell you in a strong enough way how much you do matter. Whoever you are in the world, wherever you are in the world, what doesn't matter is any of that. What does matter is that you as a person start here within. Start and understand, take the thoughts from here, make them your mantra, make them your new inner. We're trying. There we go. Nearly lost you. Don't allow yourself to talk yourself into or out of something that you need to do, be, or say for fear of upsetting others, for fear of offending other people, because who do I think I am to say that I need this when your needs are so much greater than mine? Says who? They might not be they might not be more needy. They might be equally as needy. Whatever you do going forward in your lives, you need to understand, you really do, all of us, we need to understand that unless we are willing to take a chance on us and help other people understand just how much we do matter, nobody's going to even think about it. The very fact that I've used this word over and over and over again in this short live is to reinforce the fact that we do matter. However, in simple terms, let me ask you this. If you are not willing to bestow the same amount, if not more, copious amounts of kindness and compassion on yourself that you willingly give to other people, regardless of who they are, if you're not willing to bestow that same level, if not more, of compassion and kindness for and on yourself, how can you realistically expect anybody else to? I say a lot, self-care is sanity, it's not vanity. There isn't any need for any of us to be anxious about what other people think about us, because oftentimes we're wrong anyway. There's a large part of me that wants to scream at people, how do you know that? Unless you've had the conversation. The most important conversation I would urge any of you to have today, right this minute, if you haven't done already, is to look inside and have a brutally honest conversation with yourselves, my friends, and ask yourself if this is applicable to you, because many of you will understand that you are enough and you do matter and you do love and care and protect and validate yourself and all that business. But for those of you that this is applicable to, I ask you, I beg you, have a brutally honest conversation with yourself and find out, look deep within and find out what is it exactly that triggered you into believing that other people mattered more. Even if you know you matter, what triggered you into believing that other people mattered more? Equally, yes. More than? Sometimes, possibly. But as a general rule of thumb, no. We have one world. We are one race. We have one love. And that should be for ourselves and at the same time for others. Give that love forward unconditionally to yourself first. Your cup will run over, as the saying goes, and you will have more than enough to look after everybody else. This world is sadly lacking in kindness and compassion. Each and every one of us can do our own tiny bit to put that right. But as those of you who are in my group, Everything Begins and Ends with You, will know, I genuinely believe everything begins and ends with you. Self-care starts at home. It starts with you. And the crux of understanding that self-care is sanity, not vanity, is accepting the fact, the absolute fact, that you matter enough to care for yourself in a way that makes you happy, healthier and whole, be that physically or mentally or both. And then, and only then, will you be able to sit back and say, do you know what? I actually know I am enough. When we're children, we learn the stories of our grown-ups. The stories our grown-ups project onto us become the basis of our mind monkey chatter. Yeah? When I was a child, I knew how to play, but I learned to be quiet. When I was a child, I knew how to laugh, but I learned how to cry. When I was a child, I knew how to be funny, but I learned how to be miserable. When I was a child, I knew how to be awkward, but I learned how to behave. When I grew up, and not so very long ago, I knew how to cry, but I relearned how to laugh. When I grew up, not so very long ago, I knew how to hide, but I learned not to be afraid to be awkward in public. When I was a grown-up, not so long ago, I knew how to be miserable, but I learned how to be happy. All of the above and more, I've learned twice in my life. I have learned, and then I've unlearned, and then subsequently I have unlearned and relearned what I started out. I'm not sure that made an awful lot of sense, to be honest, as I'm trying to piece it together here whilst I'm talking to you. But what I want you to understand is, just because something always is and or was in our lives doesn't mean ever that it has to be, is and always the same going forward. I quote Seth Godin a lot on this. We get what we settle for, but we don't have to settle for what we get. And I would suggest that that starts for you today, if any of what I've said resonates with you in terms of generating a brutally honest conversation, looking within yourselves. My name is Sue Kerr. Amongst other things, I'm a mindset strategist, an NLP practitioner, and a catalyst for effecting long-lasting positive change. And I oftentimes make more sense than I do when I'm on a Facebook Live, largely because I'm an organic creature, and sometimes, as my dad said, Oftentimes I need a license for this mouth. I hope the license that I have for this mouth and this broadcast tonight has made some sense. If it's resonated with you in any way, please just drop me a yes below or send me a PM and let's chat. Because not only are you enough, we are all enough actually, and that's an overused cliche, but we do matter. And more importantly, you must remember more than anything else, you matter enough to have your say and your place in this world. Wherever you are, whoever you are, enjoy the rest of this amazing evening. It's very sunny here in Yorkshire, if not a little noisy outside where I've decided to do this from. Whoever and wherever you are, enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a fabulous time. Sleep well tonight, and tomorrow, it may well be another day, but it's also the first day of the rest of your lives, guys. It's time for you to make it count and show the people just how much you realise that you do matter. Take care. Bye. Bye when you go.